What is this part with Senator Kennedy?
Is this today, Rob?
Yes, this was posted 15 minutes ago on Twitter.
Play this.
Did Jeffrey Epstein hang himself, or did somebody kill him?
Senator, I believe he hung himself in a cell in the
hanged.
Metropolitan Detention Center.
Really?
Are you going to release all the information about that?
Senator, we are working through that right now with the Department of Justice.
When do you think you'll have it done, Cash?
I think in the near future, sir.
Not near future. What a
Like
vague.
before I die?
Senator, we've been working on that, and we're doing it in a way that protects victims and also doesn't put out into the ether information that is irrelevant for production of the public, such as
Hold on. He's the same guy that said on day one, I was going to shut down the J. Edgar Hoover building and do all this nonsense. And now it's saying in the near future. I don't believe it.
Hey YouTube world, Harvest is plenty. Thanks for stopping by to check out the video. Guys, please don't forget to hit smash that thumbs up button or that like button for me. So have you guys seen the interview, the BBC interview with Prince Andrew? If you haven't seen it, I will put the link below. It is hilarious because he lies from beginning to end. In this picture that you're looking at, that's Prince Andrew. He's standing with the young 16, 17-year-old Virginia who allegedly committed suicide. No justice for her or her family. And behind them is Ghislaine or Ghislaine Maxwell, however you want to pronounce her name. And it has been said that Jeffrey Epstein is the cameraman, that he's the one taking the picture. Now, Ghislaine is in prison doing 20 years, allegedly. Now, if there was no blacklist, no Epstein list, no trafficking of children, no freak-offs and funny stuff going on, if it was all just fake news and conspiracy theory, then why is Ghislaine in prison doing 20 years? What information was she convicted on? And so there's a lot of hocus pocus going on. You know, when Trump campaigned that he was going to release these files, you know, he told half-truths to his MAGA base, to these evangelical Christians and these Republicans who voted for him in droves. He said, you know, I'm going to release this list because it's all Democrats in the deep state that goes to this island and do these bad things to children. And people want to see the Democrats arrested. You know, they was already told, you know, years ago that Barack Obama was the Antichrist. Now, how stupid is that? There's no biblical basis for that. Straight stupidity. And people believe that. They still put out YouTube videos calling Barack Obama the Antichrist. I don't know if it's because of his politics or because of his race or if it's because of both. Then, you know, people want Hunter Biden arrested because of the laptop thing. You know, Trump was supposed to come in and drain the swamp. What people fail to realize is that you cannot become president unless you are actually a part of the swamp. And I've been trying to tell you guys, Trump is one of them. But people believe that this administration is different. This administration, you know, give us hope. We trust this administration. I don't know if George Carlin is right when he said people like to be misled. People like to be or remain willfully ignorant. And maybe that is the case. Maybe so. But the fallout continues, and so does the cover up. And we'll see what happens down the road. I got some ideas. I'll come out with another video shortly. Put some other information out there. But until then, enjoy this information here that I'm getting ready to share with you guys. Continue to pray without ceasing. And may the good Lord continue to bless you and your family.
Look at this. Pam Bondi asked about the Epstein files. She said, the Epstein files are on my desk. I remember asking Donald Trump about this back in the summertime, I asked him if he was going to release all of these files. Do we have that video, guys? Americans have lost a lot of trust in institutions, and I think there's been a lot of discussion, especially online and especially with young people. How do we rebuild that trust in institutions, the CIA, the FBI, all those institutions?
Yeah, you're right.
Some people think that one way to build trust is to declassify things that everyone's talking about. I know you talked earlier about, I don't want to be a conspiracy theorist. So if you were president, would you declassify, you can answer yes or no to these, would you declassify the 9/11 files?
Yeah.
Would you declassify JFK files?
Yeah. I did a lot of it.
Would you declassify the Epstein files?
Yeah, I would.
All right.
I guess I would. I think that less so because, you don't know. You don't want to affect people's lives if it's phony stuff in there because there's a lot of phony stuff with that whole world. But I think I would, or at least
Do you think that would restore trust? Help restore trust?
Yeah, I don't know about Epstein so much as I do the others. Certainly about the way he died. It would be interesting to find out what happened there because that was a weird situation and the cameras didn't happen to be working, et cetera, et cetera. But yeah, I'd go a long way toward that one.
Great questions.
Yeah, it's tough.
You press them, and now we've got Attorney General Pam Bondi talking yesterday about what she plans to do with these files now sitting on her desk. Here's what she says.
This is something Donald Trump has talked about. The DOJ may be releasing the list of Jeffrey Epstein's clients. Will that really happen?
It's sitting on my desk right now to review. That's been a directive by President Trump. I'm reviewing that. I'm reviewing JFK files, MLK files. That's all in the process of being reviewed because that was done at the directive of the president from all of these agencies.
So have you seen anything that you said, oh my gosh?
Not yet.
That I think you spurned that to happen, and now Pam Bondi's being pretty specific that she's reviewing it, so that's not clear that we're getting all of it. But it's not just Epstein; it's Epstein, MLK, JFK, and all of these things.
Look, the Epstein stuff is serious stuff.
It is.
We're talking about children. We're talking about sexual abuse.
Absolutely. And remember, we're talking about a number of different potential crime scenes and videos that have been collected. One of the big differences, I think, now compared to the past 4 years is now there seems to be a real aggressive action toward transparency, as we've been talking about all morning long. I do want to know where those tapes went. I do want to know what happened out in New Mexico. I would like to know, are there other women and children who've been impacted, for example, by this Epstein, not just by Jeffrey Epstein himself, but also by Ghislaine Maxwell and by others who may or may not have been party to these circumstances on the east side of New York. So I think transparency, sunlight, what they say is the best disinfectant.
It's the best disinfectant. Let me tell you why I think this is important. I think it's important because we have a generation of young people who have been through the lies of COVID that deeply impacted them, have seen all of these things transpire that we've been talking about, but at very formative ages. And this is their chance to believe that their government is honest again.
Amen.
I think if these are not released in their entirety, and if this promise is not kept, and by the way, I believe President Trump is going to keep this promise, but I think this is about restoring trust for young people in democracy.
Yeah,
I think it's wildly important.
We've had these drones, and we've talked about here on the couch and elsewhere, these mysterious drones everywhere in the Biden administration. Stonewalled. Trump administration comes in right away. It's like, okay, here's what that was.
Yeah.
And but it's like, why was that so hard? And you have a great point, too, with young viewers. This is about the erosion of trust with young people and their government. And that's not a good thing. That needs to be reversed. And I think transparency, they can see tangible transparency when they're looking into whether it's Epstein or RFK or JFK. They're like, okay, now I can see it. Now I can see it for myself. I can read it. And therefore, you're reading sources.
There's a reason for government to have some secrets, but a lot of this is just about protecting powerful people. And this is a chance to reverse that. So,
Chief Washington correspondent Major Garrett is also following this for us. Major, good morning to you. So what did you make of President Trump's response yesterday in that cabinet meeting, and how could this all play out politically for him?
It is unusual for President Trump to try to shut down an issue that has roiled his base for years, and this issue has. Look, human trafficking is a serious issue. It's a bipartisan issue, but the question has been very persistently followed by those most visible on social media and the Trump political movement. So much so that in 2023, an independent movie called Sound of Freedom, produced for $15 million, made $251 million at the box office, fueled by evangelical Trump supporters. That movie is about human trafficking, specifically sex trafficking. And all of this filled a kind of void within the Trump echo chamber about government, corruption, particularly Democratic, possibly corruption, holding all of this information about Jeffrey Epstein back. And the Trump world, meaning the candidate and those around him, promised absolute transparency, absolute clarity on this. And what has happened thus far does not meet the standards of those who thought that they would be getting more from the Trump administration than they got from previous administrations.
This is truly unusual breaking news. You know the breaking news animation. You know sometimes the news is big, significant, serious. This one is unusual. A major escalation in what is increasingly a kind of political, quiet, peaceful civil war, but a civil war of political proportions for MAGA over these Epstein files. And it's roiling the Trump administration at quite literally the highest levels. Sources detailing the ongoing clash over a fight that could cost someone their job. Trump's Attorney General Pam Bondi clashing with the FBI number 2 official Dan Bongino. As everybody who follows these kind of stories knows, technically the AG oversees the FBI, but if you remember Comey or other strong-willed FBI officials, when you're at that number 1, number 2 level, they sometimes fight with the DOJ. Sources say Bongino is so upset about all this, he's saying maybe he'll just leave, which would be a very quick tenure, by the way. And he would be leaving in a sort of protest or criticism of Bondi's handling of the Epstein files. Other outside agitators, including Tucker Carlson, saying she's lost confidence. Maybe she has to go. He was not at work today, reportedly. Sources also say Bondi and Bongino got into a heated clash Wednesday in a high-level meeting with him, her, FBI Director Patel, and Donald Trump's number 1 person who tracks all this stuff and makes the big staffing decisions, Susie Wiles, the chief of staff, who, of course, also ran the Victoria's campaign. Axios has a report on this where Pam says her piece, Dan says his piece, didn't end on friendly terms. Bongino left angry. And you don't need to be a scholar of reporting or Watergate level intrigue to know somebody in this small meeting is leaking this stuff to Axios if it's true. A source close to Bongino saying he ain't coming back. Out of control furious is the other quote. This destroyed his career. He's threatening to quit and torch Pam unless she's fired, said someone who, again, according to that reporting, spoke with Bongino. By the way, hire podcasters and right-wing media figures to run major parts of the government, and you may find major parts of the government are being leaked on and run like another piece of podcast content. I'll come back to how some of this does swirl around MAGA content. Other parts of it, of course, are serious when you think about the victims in the original Epstein case. All of this, though, occurred because the DOJ has fallen short of the pledges that people around Trump, including Bondi, made. There were many questions about the Epstein case. From the moment of his in-custody death, this news program, for example, has reported on those questions. There are some suspicious details. This news program has not done what a lot of the internet and MAGA right-wing sort of circles have done, which is assert without evidence what maybe happened and then wait for the government to confirm it. Now we're seeing significant backlash from MAGA, probably some of the loudest against Trump since he took office. Journalists, other people following Doge and Musk may be reporting one set of problems to the administration, but on the right, this is the big problem. All of this is because it was partly stoked by the very people who now say nothing to see here. They stoked this conspiracy which imploded on them.
The DOJ may be releasing the list of Jeffrey Epstein's clients? Will that really happen?
It's sitting on my desk right now.
In Epstein's case, it is incredibly disturbing. We have flight logs, we have information, names that will come out.
What names are in there, man? You understand how many powerful people probably want this thing to desperately go away?
The FBI airmailed into that operation and said, this is not getting out. Because they do that because this is another government gangster operation.
Seriously, we need to release the Epstein list. That is an important thing.
Release the list. That's the now vice president. The list's on my desk, the attorney general. The government gangsters, quote unquote, are in charge of all this stuff. The problem is they caught the car. All those people talking up that way now have the goods. They're in the government. They used to be pointing their finger. They found it pointing at themselves, like many an old internet meme, and it's blown up on them. So this matters politically because one or more people may be out of a job. It matters in a deeper sense because we're seeing the limits of governing by clickbait or political conspiracy theory. It also could matter if any of it got back to the real questions about the Epstein case, not whether Pam Bondi was lying when she said she had an Epstein list or is lying now when the memo says it doesn't exist, but can't be both. Now, in the FBI, there's a wider dysfunction involving some of these same people who we know from what they're saying have been spending many, many days, a lot of their energy on a client list they now say doesn't exist. But the Times is reporting that the FBI is taking the unusual step of using lie detectors for loyalty tests, subjecting personnel to questions as specific as to whether they've criticized or, quote, cast aspersions on Patel, who you just saw in that other clip talking about gangsters. This looks like something from a movie or another era, but according to the Times, it's happening. And in Trump's DOJ under Bondi, there's also a purge because there are officials who say they might be targeted not for how they're doing their job, but whether they're insufficiently, quote, politically loyal to Bondi and Trump. Fired without explanation, a culture of fear is how the Post describes it. And so one more point on all this tonight. What started as a very real question about a suspicious in-custody death. Any journalist or lawyer could tell you the government's holding a high-profile detainee and they die under suspicious circumstances. You want to investigate that. What started with something real morphed into a MAGA conspiracy theory that was sold so hard by these leaders that it's blown up in their face. And more than almost anything Trump has done thus far in the second term, and you follow the news, you're familiar with it, this is the thing saddling Trump. This is the thing that has them leaking on each other, fighting with each other, talking about not coming back to work, all because the story they sold themselves blew up on themselves.